Good morning, everyone. First of all, Mr. Polyakov, distinguished organizer, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, dear Ambassador of the United States to Macedonia, Mr. Jess Bailey, distinguished Ambassador of the UK to Macedonia, Mr. Garrett, distinguished Ambassador of Canada, Ms. Chaba, ladies and gentlemen, businessmen from the mining industry, dear friends. It is an honor and a pleasure on behalf of the Macedonian government and on my own personal behalf to welcome this gathering. I would like to wish you a good stay in our country and good discussions. I hope they will yield useful conclusions. What I want to state clearly is that a state that doesn't take advantage of its natural resources does not exist. All countries have to make avail of their natural resources so that they can fight with competitiveness in this economic world. Fact following here, more than 10,000 people are directly employed in mining. In April 2018, compared to April 2017, the mining industry has grown 1.3%, and mining accounts for 8.31% of industrial production. These are significant numbers, and the contribution of mining in Macedonia and in its industry is important, primarily through the mines that have operated for a long time and that are still operating successfully. This is further compounded by the good stock market situation of the metals and minerals. I hope this will stay this way. Mining does not end with extraction. It continues with the metallurgy facilities in Macedonia. We were faced recently with such a challenge with the Feni facility, which I think will be resolved recently. Metallurgy is an extension of the mining industry here. What I want to state clearly is the following. Recently, when we mention mining in Macedonia, there's a negative feeling. We have to open a discussion about why this is so. I had a lot of conversations in the past year that I've been in government, and I can only conclude that this situation has been coming for years. It has been generated by the partially irresponsible conduct of some concession holders who have failed to meet due diligence methods and due care methods aiming for higher profits. Of course, profits are the main driver of business, and this is a good thing, and this is something that's in the interest of the country in terms of tax collection. However, the other side of the coin is that we have to take care of the environment. Such conduct has created some sensitivity in the population. Concession holders and the central government have to work a lot more with the local population to explain to the local population that there is the technology that is not harmful for their environment. And we need to involve them in the decision-making process and cooperate with them closely. If the central government, the country's government, the Ministry of Economy, and senior officials in government who have the power to award concessions do not conduct themselves in a way that they don't consult the local population, then this can cause the situation we now have in Macedonia. I am deeply convinced that if we work together to explain to the local population that there is the technology applied around the world that is not harmful to the people and other industries surrounding the mines, then all of us will reach a result where we're all happy. The people will be informed and they will know that their environment won't be harmed, that other industries won't be harmed. I'm primarily thinking about agriculture here, because we have to be aware of the numbers. And they are that in the southeast of Macedonia, in the south of Macedonia, where we have most of agriculture, people are worried about having a mine in their surroundings when they make a living from agriculture. As I said, mines account a lot in industrial production, but we must not forget that agricultural production accounts for a lot of our exports, and that most of the people in those regions make a living of it. I would like to ask you on behalf of the government, all of you investing in the mining industry in Macedonia, who intend to invest in mining here, to work more with the local population. I would like to ask you on behalf of the government and my own personal behalf to explain to the local population through public debates, through events, all the circumstances in which you will do business in their surroundings, to show them that you will respect the maximum environmental standards and that you will introduce the most modern technology that will enable protection of the environment. True, industry is important, the economy is important, but people's health still takes priority. I am convinced that together with the government we can help you in this communication. We can uphold all the rules and regulations. And at the same time, I expect on your side cooperation with us, with the local population, so that we are all convinced that Macedonia will become a normal country where mining is done as anywhere else in the world. If we manage this, and I'm quite certain we can, then I think the adverse feelings that the people have today when people mention mining will be something we overcome together. We have to tell the local communities and the civil society about the benefits without any harm to their health or environment. The fact is that 22% of royalties go to the central budget. 78% ends up in the local budgets, in the municipalities. They have to use these funds to improve people's lives in their communities. And if people see this palpably, if they can recognize it, and if you are socially responsible to the local community as investors, then I think together we can overcome these challenges. In mining, I have seen other issues of financial nature. For instance, if you take a concession from one owner to another, the law stipulates a 7% charge to the state from the business deal, from the value of the deal. In the past, we've had such cases, and recently this was avoided, and the deal did not happen in Macedonia, but the mother companies did the transaction. So we will amend the law to say that wherever the transfer of ownership takes place, the funds have to be paid in Macedonia, because Macedonia is the place of mineral exploitation. In the past, Macedonia has lost hundreds of millions of euros on these grounds. In terms of taxation, the transfer pricing principle does not work properly here. This is the principle when mother companies sell to sister companies or daughter companies, and there is no uniform way of invoicing. The two measures I've mentioned will financially mean that Macedonian legislation will be aligned with EU legislation. And finally, let me say that the government is open to Euro-Atlantic integration. We are doing all we can to move the country in this direction, for it to become a member of NATO and the EU. We are dedicated to this because we don't see it as a political issue only, more as an economic issue, because it is an issue of stability and security and mainly of standards. Standards mean that we have to be aligned with standards around the world. This does not happen overnight. It cannot happen in a short time, but if we work diligently on this issue, I am convinced that it will happen. I think this will be to the benefit of both the citizens and the business people, because in order to have an economy, in addition to measures and support from the government, you need two basic elements, and this is the rule of law and a stable country, a stable political situation. I do hope that we will all recognize that Macedonia is headed in this direction, and I would like you once again ask you to work more with the local population, so that we try and explain to everyone that in Macedonia mining will be practiced as anywhere in the world, not otherwise, as anywhere in the developed world, as anywhere in the countries with whom we want to be associated. Once again, let me wish you a pleasant work day, fruitful discussions. The government remains dedicated to listening to the conclusions of conferences like this and implement them in our policies. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a pleasant day. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Polyakov, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And my thanks to the Deputy Prime Minister, Kochu for his warm welcome and opening words. And also to the organisers, MINEX, for putting on this event. By holding the conference here in Skopje, you are turning the international mining community's spotlight on a country which is putting renewed effort into a reform programme which should bring considerable benefit to all, citizens, businesses, government and non-government alike. I'm especially delighted that MINEX is the occasion to welcome to Macedonia, for the first time, a UK trade delegation from the mining sector. That also serves as a timely reminder that while the implications of the UK referendum on leaving the European Union are still being worked through, Britain is open for business, and UK companies remain committed to exploring business opportunities in Macedonia just as they do worldwide. The UK, like Macedonia, has a long and distinguished history in mining. Tin has been mined in Cornwall since the Bronze Age. The Prince of Wales, Her Majesty's eldest son, wears a wedding ring made of gold mined in Wales. And perhaps more significant in historical and economic terms, coal powered the Industrial Revolution in England in the 18th and 19th centuries. As a legacy of that, the UK has developed an unrivaled mining capability. UK companies are active throughout the mining life cycle, from initial scoping studies through all phases of feasibility and design to construction and operation. UK designed and manufactured construction equipment is also working hard on mining projects in every corner of the world, including here in Macedonia, excavating and processing earth, rock, sand, and many other materials. And we're delighted that some of the leading companies in this sector from the UK are with us today, including AMC Consultants, Cummins, Denham Capital, ERM, Hannon Partners, Komatsu Mining Corp, SRK Consulting, Wardell Armstrong, and Weir Minerals. Statistics show that mining contributes a very modest part of Macedonia's GDP. That share has also dropped over recent years, and yet Macedonia is rich in mineral resources. It is a sector with great potential to bring benefit both to the country and to the businesses that help to realise it. And this is where the reforms that the Deputy Prime Minister who has just referred to can really make a difference. The reform programme in this country, as in many transition states, has been linked for so long to opening accession talks with the EU that it is easy to lose sight of the original purpose of reform. Rule of law is a good example. It isn't just a box to be ticked for the European Commission in Brussels. It is an essential component of developing an environment, a business environment, that is fair and transparent, an environment where a company's interests are protected by law, an environment that drives corruption down and opens opportunities up. Public administration reform is another example. Any business interacting with government will want efficient, reliable, and transparent service. They want to deal with officials who are appointed and promoted on merit, not on the basis of affiliation to a political party. These reforms are not easy, but they are essential for an economy to realise its full potential. So the present government's determination to implement reform is very welcome. And I am delighted that we can support these efforts through the bilateral British-Macedonian partnership. For a sector that contributes a relatively small share of GDP, mining has been in the news a lot recently in Macedonia, mostly because of environmental concerns. It is therefore highly topical that the first session immediately after this opening should address sustainable mining, and that the subject should be the central theme of the whole agenda. With so many companies here committed to raising standards of environmental protection, I hope the conference will go some way to addressing concerns raised over the last year or so in Macedonia. That is important here in Macedonia, as you heard from the Deputy Prime Minister. And it is important to me as representative of a country that has long regarded environmental protection as a policy priority. I would like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister Koçoğlu and the organisers of MINEX again for inviting me to speak today. And I wish you all the best for an enjoyable and productive event. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister Andriushev, esteemed colleagues, presenters, and participants. Good morning and welcome to the opening of MINEX 2018. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. I would like to offer a big thank you to the organizers of this event for putting together such an interesting and diverse program. As the Ambassador of Canada to Serbia, Macedonia, and Montenegro, based in Belgrade, I'm here to speak about Canada's approach to mining and the implications for the countries of this region. Canada has a world-class reputation as a business leader for advanced mining technology and for innovative approaches in mine development. Canada's minerals sector is a pillar of our national economy, supporting jobs, economic activity, and high living standards in all regions of our country. The mining, exploration, and operations work being carried out by Canadian companies is at the cutting edge of mining technology. In learning from our domestic and international mining experience over the past century and more, the Government of Canada, Canadian companies, and our civil society have been on a path of continual progress towards ever more responsible, transparent, and sustainable mining. Let me tell you about just a few relevant initiatives. Our Ministry of Natural Resources recently launched a national consultation process to seek views on how to strengthen the minerals and metals industry in Canada. The discussion paper for the future Canadian Minerals and Metals Plan is available online and provides a starting point for the kinds of ideas under consideration. The Mining Association of Canada, the leading industry group, which has a voluntary membership, has put in place the Towards Sustainable Mining Initiative in the year 2004. This is a set of tools and indicators which are mandatory for all members of the association. These indicators cover how companies engage with local communities, drive world-leading environmental practices, and manage the health and safety of employees and surrounding communities. Companies must report annually against these indicators, and external assessments are conducted. 4 other countries, Finland, Argentina, Botswana, and the Philippines, have chosen to adopt these same standards. Another industry group, the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, launched an online information resource to help companies improve their social, environmental, and health and safety performance during the earlier phases of mine development. This resource, known as E3+, consists of 8 principles for responsible exploration, as well as toolkits to help companies put those principles into practice. Canada is also home to the Devonshire Initiative, which brings together mining companies and NGOs. Created in 2007, the Devonshire Initiative has become a forum to build understanding and trust between these 2 communities that have sometimes been hostile to each other, and to develop new initiatives and relationships in support of responsible mining. The Government of Canada issued in 2014 a renewed corporate social responsibility strategy for Canadian mining and exploration companies working abroad. Doing Business the Canadian Way, a strategy to advance corporate social responsibility in Canada's extractive sector abroad, demonstrates the Government of Canada's expectation that Canadian companies will promote Canadian values and operate abroad with the highest ethical standards. Canada is the first country in the world to create the position of an independent ombudsperson for responsible enterprise, who will be tasked with investigating allegations of human rights abuses linked to Canadian corporate activity abroad, including in the mining sector. This position was announced earlier this year and is in the process of being filled. We have also created a multi-stakeholder advisory body on responsible business conduct abroad, which brings together representatives of government, industry, and civil society, and will advise the new ombudsperson. These recent developments demonstrate the commitment of the Canadian government to ensuring responsible business conduct by Canadian companies operating in foreign markets, in cooperation with local governments and communities. They also represent elements of our progressive trade agenda, which is about ensuring that all segments of society benefit from the opportunities that flow from trade and investment, while respecting the values and rights that Canadians expect from Canadian businesses. On the international front, Canada supports the work of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative as a member of the EITI board and through financial contributions to EITI's operations. The EITI is the global standard to promote the open and accountable management of extractive resources, so that the wealth accumulated from a country's extractive sector is used and managed in a way that benefits all. And I note that in this region, only Albania is currently a member of EITI. I'm pleased to note that we have several Canadian mining and exploration companies active in Macedonia and Serbia and other countries of Southern and Eastern Europe. Last week, I had the great pleasure of attending the official opening of Nevsun, operating as Rakita, decline for the Čukaru Peki mine, which is the first very large, significant new mining development in Serbia. This event was also attended by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Mining of Serbia, and was a great example of how Canadian companies working well with their local colleagues can develop a new important mine. I strongly believe that responsible mining can play an important role in the sustainable economic growth and social development of Macedonia and the other countries of this region. I also believe strongly that Canadian mining companies can play a strong leadership role in demonstrating high standards, transparent communications, and responsible practices around the environmental, health, and social impact of their projects in this region. Thank you.